That was Mute.
Hello.
And joining me for this panel is Tony, and I'm not too sure if we have Rob Darren Newberger with us. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Leah.
Oh, at least we've got your voice. That's better than nothing.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you.
Hello.
Well, yep, that's awesome. So I'm just going to introduce you to our audience. It
How
helps
you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, man. How you?
I'm here.
So for those of you that don't know about Rob, he's a screenwriter and director. His credits include Evan Almighty, HBO's John Adams, Iron Man 3, several television reality shows, independent films, and his own feature film, White Paint, A Clown Story. So welcome to the panel. There's a lot of love going around, especially for all the Easter eggs that you hid in this film. So just to get Twitter out of the way for a little bit, if you want to talk about those.
The Easter eggs?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the obvious one was 1408.
Yep.
And we got the chattery teeth. That's
Yes.
in there. And then I had the liberty of when Stephen King wrote the story, the character's name was Mr. Manette. He didn't have a first name, so I put Blaine in for the first name. And then, of course, Barlow, when he's talking to his daughter and she's buying lunch for Barlow. That's another one. And another one, too, is when the killer is in the bathroom, the graffiti on the walls kind of has a little bit of a all that you love will be carried away tone to it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And when he pulls over in the desert and he says, "Come out from the darkness," that's actually a line from Dark Tower, but he kind of flubbed it up, but it worked.
Wonderful. Well, take it away, Tony.
I know. I noticed one, Rob, when they go to the hotel, there's a poster on the wall, and there's a clown there. That would be for Pennywise, right?
Yep, that's actually what that is. That's my movie poster for White Paint.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's like a personal nod. I had my editor. I wanted to get it in the movie, and that was a place he chose to put it, and it worked.
Awesome. All right.
Y'all
Well,
can't
I'm going to
see
dig
me,
right
can
on
you?
in. We love the Easter eggs, man.
Thanks,
I'm
bud.
going to dig right in. I'm going to say on the locations of the film, two of them in particular. One, you're out there on a long stretch of highway in the desert. How long of a stretch did you guys film this as far as miles go, and where was that filmed? And also, where did you find that bar bathroom?
I found the bar bathroom. It was an accident. I was looking for a bar to film that scene in, and I found when I went to the website, it's called the Dive Bar. I saw that bathroom, and I was like, okay, it's sold. I was sold on that. Called them up, and they let me come in, and it was the middle of June or the beginning of June, and they actually turned the AC off and still had patrons coming in and out. But they let us film. It took us about 5 hours of filming, and then we actually had to go back and ADR that scene because we had a fan in the background. We couldn't get it out of the sound, so we went back and ADR'd that in Vegas, and we actually didn't even use the ADR. We were able to bring in the jukebox music in there, and kind of that scene was actually about 7 minutes long. We cut it down to about 3.5. But the desert scene that was in Sandy Valley, Nevada, which is like right on the border of California and Nevada. And it's over by Pahrump, if you're familiar with the name Pahrump. It was out that way, and it just was a perfect place to film that.
Awesome. And then on your casting, you've got pretty much three main characters: the husband, the priest, and the hitchhiker. What was that casting process? And a quick side note: one of our viewers asked me to ask you, Jessica, out there is watching, and she said the lead actor, was he in other films because he looked so familiar? She said.
You talking about Mr. Manette?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Manette. That's Rob Morocco. He was in a couple episodes of Sopranos, and he was also in Glee. And he was in Vegas. He did a live production. It was like Sopranos Last Supper. So you've probably seen him in quite a few things. He does a lot of small roles, and like I said, The Sopranos and Glee are two that off the top of my head. And then, Doc Finnis, the guy that plays Cowboy Bob, he may look familiar too. If you watch Pawn Stars, he's one of those guys that comes in and talks about antiques when they have to call a friend. But he's been doing it about 60 years. He was in the original Blade Runner. He was in Jay Leno's Garage. He does a lot of TV stuff as well, and a lot of plays, things like that.
We got a lot of comments about his bedazzled jeans on his butt.
Yeah.
And his epic mustache.
Yeah, he's a character. He's actually he's a professor at Berkeley in archaeology. So he knows like 7 languages, and he just done so much. I mean, he goes overseas and does digs and teaches classes, and he's an actor too. And he was on the original like Mickey Mouse Club back in the day in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah, he was on there. And actually, I met him through Donna, which plays Barb, his wife. She's done a lot of work with. If you're familiar with Ted V. Michaels, he came out of the Roger Corman era, and I call it my film school, my first movie, because I never went to film school. So when I moved to Vegas, I went to acting school, and they had a couple production units within the school, and I was like, I'd be better off behind the camera, and so I fell in love with that. Went out, got my own camera, made my feature film, and at the same time I was doing my feature film, I was the AD on Ted V. Michaels' movie Astro Zombies M3 Clone, which is it's the original Astro Zombies was back in the 50s, and he did a scary movie. You might have heard Children Don't Play with Dead Things. He was behind that, and he was a great. I learned so much from him. His lighting was like impeccable. It was like just learning old school. He was old school, and was AD with that while I was doing my white paint film. So that was my film school.
Awesome. That's a great film school. One of the things I've noticed with the Dollar Babies right now, the new generation of Dollar Babies, is they're starting to do prequels and sequels to their films. And with The Hitchhiker, do you see a possible Mute 2?
Yes, I actually got green-lighted to do All That You Love Would Be Carried Away. And my intentions was to use The Hitchhiker and have him be the lead in that story. The only problem I'm having with that now is I wanted to make it like a Mute 2, but my actors really want to come back and do another Stephen King film. So I'm thinking about actually doing like a prequel with it and going that route. I'm still in the process of writing it. I've written most of it, but it's been a challenge writing it to try to make it basically Mute 1. But with a different title, of course. But that's my goal, to actually do a prequel on that.
That would be great. That seems to be the new trend now with the Dollar Baby universe, is what I call it, is that there's the prequel sequel thing going on. And I hope there's more Dollar Baby directors out there that will do this. I think that fans would love to see prequels and sequels to their films. Let me ask you this, Rob.
Yes.
The film itself is very dialogue driven and very suspense thrillerish. What brought you to this story? What did you like about the story the most, as opposed to more the gore of King's stories? What drew you to the story?
I like how the characters evolved in the film, like from the beginning. I just like, and I love the fact that the audience kind of felt for the lead character because he was going through so much. And then at the end, when he does that little grin at the end, it was like a clever. It was kind of an accident, and I threw it in there, and it worked. But it like goes through their emotions, the characters evolve. Of course, I like the story too. And then production value, I picked it because I wanted to film it in Vegas because that was where my crew and my actors was. And I wrote the screenplay for the actors in mind. I already had them in mind. And so I filmed it in Vegas, and I knew half of it would be in a studio at Confession Booth. So that was half the film right there. And then, of course, we had the desert, and the bar was a completely added scene. It wasn't even in the story. I added that to it. And, of course, the argument. Actually, the argument was supposed to be in a park, because, how couples argue in parks. And we went there to shoot, and there was 1 million people there, so we ended up going back to her house and shooting it, because that was the biggest challenge of it. I live in North Carolina, so I did all my scouting and everything from North Carolina. I had to use the web a lot. I had some friends out there scouting for me, and I basically had a plan A, plan B, plan C for everything. That's how I approached it, and I went out there. I was out there 11 days, and we shot 3 days, and the other 8 days was basically setting up the studio for the confession booth. Filming that was real tight. I couldn't. Originally, I was going to go to a church and do it, and have like a drone camera coming down the aisle to a confession booth. But it was really difficult trying to get that nailed down because, of course, Catholic priests, they have to go through a hierarchy to get permission. And, of course, with the F-bombs in it, it probably wouldn't have worked out too well. But it worked out the way it did. It was really good.
It turned out great.
Well,
do you have any
thank you.
Twitter questions, Leah?
Well, I want to know, have you been watching along at home with us over the weekend, Rob?
Unfortunately, I've been real busy because I'm actually traveling right now.
Okay.
I came down from Pennsylvania. I did catch day one. I caught a couple hours, and day two I didn't catch that much. I really would like to go back and watch it, but from what I've seen, I love it. It's a great idea, and I hope you guys do it again.
We would
Doing
love
a great
to.
job hosting it.
Love to.
It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
I'm not sure if you know about Derry Public Radio. They have been writing a haiku for every single film that has played in our festival. So this one is for you.
Okay.
A wife's treachery, a husband with a hitcher. Is revenge silent? And Derry Public Radio gives Mute 5 out of 5 blue chambray
Awesome.
shirt.
Awesome. Thank you.
Rob, I'd like to ask you, I've been asked this to some of the Dollar Baby filmmakers, as far as props go, did you keep the button that the lead actor wore in his suit, and did you keep the medallion as your prop little keepsake?
I did.
You did.
Yep.
So you got them both then, huh?
Yeah, I got both of them. The only thing I left
That's
in
awesome.
Vegas was the confession booth because I actually, the drapery and all that, I sent like 9 boxes of props from North Carolina at my friend's house. Donna, I was staying with her. So I mailed everything except for the wood and built that on the morning of the shoot. That Saturday was a long day. We did all the confession scene, all the confession stuff in the morning, and we did the argument, and we did the, when he finds the note, we did all that in one day. And the next day we did the Sunday, the day after we did the desert. That was one day. And the first night we met, we did, I met the crew. Most of the crew I hadn't even met before. So first night we did the bar scene and the motel scene, and it just worked out well. I was like blessed, no pun intended, but I was blessed to have the DP I got. It was really, really worth it.
That's great. I have to ask you a quick personal question. When I interviewed you in my Stephen King Dollar Baby the book, I asked you a question about what is your greatest moment with your film Mute, and you told me at that time to be determined. So now that's been a little bit of time, would you say this moment is that greatest moment of your ride with Mute?
It is because the world's watching, and it's great to have it out there and be able to show it because, of course, we pay for the production ourselves. All that was out of pocket, and it feels good to actually be able to show it. Just feels really good. Stephen King, I can't thank him enough for giving filmmakers the opportunity to adapt his stories, and it's a great idea. Because when I stumbled across the Dollar Baby program too as well. I used to do taxes. I ran a tax office, tax manager. So I had a lot of downtime between clients, and that's how I did most of my work. I did all my research. I even made some of my props at work, and it's just a lot of hard work. Like I said, I had plans for everything. I had backup, and thank God I did, because like when we filmed when he walks into the church and then when he walks out, we didn't realize that it was a Saturday and there was a church service going on. I figured Saturday was a good day to do that. And all of a sudden he's walking up, and as he's walking up the stairs, the doors open, and seemed like a million people walked out. So I'm like, okay, we have to wait till these people leave and then shoot it. And sometimes how it is when you film, it's like Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, it will. And but
Yeah.
it worked out, you know.
Well, we only
Okay.
have like a minute left. I'm really sorry to
Okay.
cut you off, but I'm glad that you're here, even if it's just your voice. Do you want to tell our listener or our listeners, our viewers at home, quickly what you're working on right now?
What am I? Well, of course, I did my feature film White Paint. I call that my film school. That was actually a 7 year passionate project, and so that's just sitting in the can basically. And I'm doing I just wrote a short called. Actually, started writing it about 8 years ago. It's called Nightmare Activity, like Paranormal Activity. When that first came out, I had written it. It's a short film, so I really want to film that and then have it maybe put in like a series, like when they do the internet series. When they stack the films, I like to do that. And then I also have of course, I got green lighted to do All That You Love Will Be Carried Away, which I have a little less than a year to finish that. And also, I have some good friends out in California. The director did Bruce and Mighty, Evan Almighty, and Liar Liar, Nutty Professor. Well, his people
Hmm.
I written a screenplay, a Laurel and Hardy modern day like buddy movie, cross country movie, and I sent them the treatment, and they referred it to Creative Artists Agency. And as you know, it's hard to even get them to even look at your work, so it's sitting there, waiting to be produced someday. Of course, I don't have the money to do it right now, but if there's like a producer out there that wants to jump on board, and you know, I would love to. And it was actually endorsed by Stan Law's daughter herself. She had liked it,
Wow.
loved it so much. Of course, she didn't have the finances to do it, but she said, I'm giving you my blessing, and we can, if you want to make that, you have my endorsement." And that's pretty cool. So I really want to do that someday. I would love to be an AD on a big film, like a Hollywood film. Just that's kind of my dream to actually work alongside a great director. And then when I was on, I worked extra work for like John Adams and Iron Man 3. Well, John Adams was really cool because it was Tom Hooper, and he ended up winning an Oscar for Best Director for The King's Speech. So I got to watch him work for 10 days, and then Tom Shadyac, I got to watch him work. Evan Almighty, that was like 12 days filming. So just being on a set, it's feels natural,
Awesome. Well,
Well,
thank
that's
you so
awesome.
much
That's
for
really
being
great.
here.
Thank you. Well,
Thank
thank you
you,
for having me.
appreciate
You
it.
guys did awesome job. I mean, I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot.
much.
Thanks for being here.